Okay, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. Another edition of our webinar series that we do every Tuesday and Thursday. Don't just think that they're only on Thursdays. We also do them on Tuesdays too. So make sure you check out abacusnext.com/webinars to take a look at the upcoming schedule. But today is obviously Thursday. So we're going to be talking about document generation in AbacusLaw. Do me a favor, though, before we dive into that. Can you just use the little hand-raising button and let me know that you can see my screen okay? Beautiful. Thank you, everybody that raised their hands. I mean, I'm assuming that if a couple people raise their hands, then you can obviously see my Abacus program okay. So that's good. And you can obviously hear me okay, so that's good too. So I'll go ahead and put your hands down. Thanks, everybody. And we'll go ahead and dive in. So as usual, my name is Scott, Senior Trainer here at AbacusLaw, Abacus Next. And we're going to be focusing on the AbacusLaw program. Like I said, document generation. So there's, obviously this is a big feature in, any case management tool, because a lot of the time, where we spend a lot of our, time in the day is creating things like non-rep letters and creating requests for information and creating our court forms and filling everything in. So, not only is that, potentially billable time for our firm that we can charge for, but it's also something that needs to be organized, right? We need to be able to keep track of these finished documents that we're sending to our clients or that we're submitting to the courts so that we have a nice running list of, everything that we've generated for a specific matter, just for historical purposes, even at the least, right? That's why we want it. And, it's also good for, if a client, maybe you're, mailing copies via, the postal service, right? Old school. If you're doing that, sometimes you get a client that says, hey, I never got the, the fee agreement in the mail or something like that. So being able to quickly generate that agreement again and send it out, right? Or to reference the one that you already sent out because it's linked to your cases, that's a very important thing. A great feature that you can do inside of the program. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So you've probably noticed that you are muted, right? So you can only hear me. You can't talk to me, at least through a microphone. So make sure, just like on all the other sessions, you use that little questions box, okay, to type your questions in, and I'll monitor that throughout our session, and I will do my best to answer all questions within the time allotted. If I don't answer your question, though, don't be alarmed. I see it, I acknowledge it, and I will make sure that I follow up with you by email after the training is completed, after the webinar is completed. Also, if you got to hop off, I get it. You guys are busy. You got to take a client call or something like that, or you have another obligation. That's okay. Go ahead and do it. We're going to email everybody a link to this. Every registered attendee gets a link to this, so it's recorded, obviously. And then always, if you go to abacusnext.com/webinars and scroll down the page just a little bit, there's a little section in there for past webinars where we post all of these, a couple days after, maybe Monday, I think you'll probably see it up there. So take a look there too, and you're always able to reference our past webinars. And then, of course, one last housekeeping item. If you ever just have general how-to questions, anytime you're using an Abacus product, doesn't matter if it's AbacusLaw, Amicus, Office Tools, doesn't matter. Any question you ever have that relates to how to do something or a feature in this program, you can always email training@abacusnext.com, and either myself or one of my training colleagues will respond to you very quickly. Okay, we monitor that inbox 24/7. So make sure you take utilize that too as a resource. All right, we're going to get started. Generating documents. Now, I kind of alluded to this in the beginning, but there's a couple different ways that you can do that process. It really depends on what you're trying to do, okay? If you're just trying to create a letter for a single person, right, for just regarding a single case, a lot of times it's best to just go right into the forms library and start there. Okay, maybe you're trying to generate a letter, the same letter, for multiple people, right? We see this in personal injury, workers' comp, right? Let's say you get an injury matter where you've got 4 different doctors, 4 different hospitals, all linked to that particular matter as being treating physicians or something like that. So you need to send out the request for information or request for medical records, document to 4 different doctors or 4 different hospitals. Well, that's an example of creating, one type of letter 4 times, and each time has new doctor or new hospital's information in it. So if that's the case, maybe you start the form generation process from within the matter record, okay? So in the end, you end up with the same product, right? You end up with the same work product, the same end result, but some ways of doing it are more efficient than others depending upon, your scenario. So we're going to talk about both ways, and then you can kind of decide, which one you like better. There really isn't a wrong way, okay? It's what's more efficient for you and your situation. So just because you don't do it the same way that I do it in my program doesn't mean you're wrong. Okay, if you're getting the right end result and you're happy with that and you're happy with the process, that's fine. That's okay. All right. So we're going to start with the basic way. And this is the way I teach people whenever they schedule me for the form generation type of training. Because, whether you're generating a court form or you're generating just a boilerplate type of letter, the process is really the same, okay? First thing we want to do is we want to go into our forms library. Our forms library is where we see all of our document templates, all of our PDF templates, all that good stuff, okay? So if you're looking at my forms library here, I've got a few different nested little folders in my library. I like to break mine down by practice area. Okay, so I have folders for employment law. I've got them, folders for estate planning, for PI, whatever it may be. You can do this too. Okay, you can do this too. For anybody who is having any visual problems of my presentation today, please note that in your GoToWebinar window, I believe there is an option to expand it to full screen and to zoom in. So you'll need to adjust the size on your end. So make sure you take a look at your little GoToMeeting window and adjust that there. There should be a way to make it full screen or potentially zoom in on your end. So if you're looking at my forms library here, you'll see, I've got a lot of different little nested areas inside of my library. You can do this as well. And I actually recommend it. If you do multiple practice areas, create a folder structure for business entity, for real estate, for immigration, and put, those forms in there. Just keep it more organized for you and your users. We'll come back to that. I'll show you how to do that, okay? But what I like to work with here is my general forms, okay? These are very simple forms. These come with your program, by the way. So whether you, have the generic version of AbacusLaw or you have an enhanced specialty version, you'll have all of these little training forms, I like to call them, like the client deposition appointment letter, the initial appointment letter, the engagement letter. Use these as guinea pigs while you're first learning how to do form generation, okay? We'll focus on the client deposition appointment letter for now. Let's take a look at this. I'll try and make this a little bigger so that everybody can see it. But again, make sure you're zooming in or you're using your full screen mode so that you can see. So if we're breaking down the anatomy of a document, this is essentially what it's going to look like in its template format, okay? What I have here are fields in my letter, okay? So if you look here, I've got a field that says client_address. I've got a field that says file_matter. I've got a field that says client_dear, okay? These are Abacus fields. When I generate this form, the system looks at my form and it looks for fields and it says, okay, this field says client_address. Well, let's look at the matter that they chose to generate this form for, and let's see who's linked to that matter as the client. Whoever that is, I'm going to put their address right there. Okay? File attorney. Okay? The system is going to look at the matter and it's going to say, okay, who is linked to this file as the assigned attorney? I'm going to put their name right there. Okay? That is the very basics of form generation. And what, basically what we want you to know how to do is how to take your letters okay, your forms that you have at your firm, how to get them into Abacus and tweak them so that you can put the fields in the proper area. Okay, that's what we want you to learn today. So the way you're going to do this, okay, the way you import your letters into the system is by going into the library. Okay, again, you're just clicking that little Forms button on the top toolbar, okay, where my mouse is. That opens up your Forms library window, all right? And then you'll notice up at the top, you've got two little plus signs. You've got the Add plus sign, and you've got the Add Many plus sign. Let's crawl before we walk, all right? So we're going to just do Add. When you do Add, that is adding one form at a time, okay? So I'm going to click the Add button, and what that does is it actually opens up my Windows Explorer window. Okay, this is like your same Windows Explorer window that you use on your computer. Okay, you're going to open up this window when you click that Add button. What you're going to want to do now is navigate to wherever that letter lives on your network. Okay, is it on your C drive? Is it on your, you might have a folder out on your server called, I don't know, Norm's favorite documents, right? You're just going to navigate to that folder and you're going to double click on that item, okay, on that letter, that document, that form, that PDF, whatever it is. Double click on it. When you double click on that, what it does is it actually opens up a little window that looks just like this, okay? It is the editing window. It's essentially a properties window for that particular document that you are ingesting into the library, okay? And at this point, what you get to do is you get to give the form a name, okay? That's an editable field, so you can call it whatever you'd like, all right? You can give it an ID. The ID has to be unique, okay? You cannot have two forms in your library with the same ID. Keep that in mind. And then the other important thing you can do here is you can nest that form into a specific area of your library, okay? Right now it's defaulting to the general forms section, but if this is specifically relating to probate or something like that, well, then why not change that category, okay? Click that little arrow, and in that list, you're gonna have some options to choose from, okay? I can click probate. Now what it's gonna do is it's gonna put that form, that letter, into the probate folder in my library so that I have my forms all nice and neat and organized, okay? But one thing that always happens, especially with new firms that have never used the program before, is you're going to get to this step and you're going to say, well, I don't have an option that works, okay? I don't have an option in here for divorce. I want to have a separate folder just for my divorce documents or my divorce templates. That's why we have an Add button. Okay, so in the top right corner of that categories window, click the Add button, and you can create your own custom folders. Okay, so I'll call this folder Webinars. All right, now I've created a category called Webinars that I can select, and what that's going to do now is nest that particular letter, that template, into that Webinars folder for me, okay, keeping my templates and things organized. Now I'm not going to do that because I use this one quite often, so I'm going to keep it under general. Okay, and then in this field you have the ability to put in some notes about that particular template. You can put in some help text that can be used when people are editing the form. Okay, so the more information you put in here, the better it is for your other users that need to use this particular form, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and click Done. What that does now is it ingests that letter, that soon-to-be template, into my library in the location that I selected, okay? So it's right there underneath my General Forms option, okay? But if this is a letter that you've never used with Abacus before, you're not done, okay? Once you bring the letter in, now you have to edit the letter so that it actually is fillable, right? So you basically have to, put the Abacus fields in the appropriate spots in that letter, thus turning it into a template, okay? And that's really the final step, other than obviously generating a letter, okay? So once you get the letter, the document, into the system, okay, into the library, now all you need to do is just click the little design button on the top toolbar, okay? Click that design button, and what that's going to do is it's going to generate, or it's going to invoke your default word processor, assuming it's a Word doc. If it's a WordPerfect doc, it will, open it in WordPerfect as well. Okay, if it's a PDF, it's going to open it in the PDF designer that's built in. Okay, but it's going to open it in, whatever its native, editing tool is, basically, is what I'm getting at. Okay, if it's Excel, it'll open it in Excel. Okay. Let's see, I'm going to just bypass. I've done a lot of editing on mine, so I'm going to bypass some prompts that you do not need to worry about. Okay, here is what our document looks like when it is opened in design mode. Looks just like a Word doc, right? So it should look very familiar to you. Okay, but what you're wanting to do now, let me make this a little bigger. This I can adjust on my end. Okay, what you're wanting to do now is, because in real life, what's going to happen is when you ingest this, it's probably going to say something like this. Okay, it probably says something like that across the top, right? It actually has someone's contact info in there. So the object of the game is to turn this text, this variable text, as I call it, okay, turn that variable text into a field. Turn it into a field. So in order to turn it into a field, all you have to do is highlight the text, click backspace on your computer, or delete, whatever, okay, delete it out, and in its place, where your cursor is, just click the little button that says Insert Merge Field. Notice this button is on the Mailings tab in Word, okay? Whenever you open a letter up in design mode using AbacusLaw, it automatically takes you to the Mailings tab inside of Word, just so you know. And we're primarily focusing on Word today because that's the most dominant, form generation tool out there pretty much. So you're using this Insert Merge Field button to replace that variable text with a field. So when I click Insert Merge Field, what's going to happen is Abacus is going to open up this lovely little list of fields to choose from. And I just need to find the right field. Okay? So I know that I want my client's name and address up there in the top. So I'm going to go find the field called Client Address. I'm going to highlight that field and I'm going to click Insert. Okay? Now the system knows exactly where to put that information. Okay? And I'm basically just following that same logic throughout my design of my letter. So rinse and repeat. Okay? Go through your letter and swap out the variable text. So when we bring this in, it probably says, Dear Mr. Smith. Well, remove the Mr. Smith part. Okay? Backspace that out. And in its place, insert the merge field for client Dear. Okay? Now the system knows where to put that information. Okay? Now, once you've replaced the variable text with the merge fields in your letter, okay, now all you got to do is just click Save. Just click the Save button like you normally would. Okay, and you can close out. And if you click off of that form and then click back on it, you will see your changes in the preview screen. Okay, you should see all your fields in the right places. So once you've completed that process, now the form is good to go. It is a fillable form at this point. So assuming that you have all the fields in the right spots and you have all the right data in your matter records, when I generate this form, okay, when I click on this little letter here and I click my matters button to choose my matter from the list, I can go ahead and click Fill Form, and then I end up with a final copy that looks like this. okay? So remember, that process, once we have the form created and we need to actually generate a live form, a live finished product, I'm going to go into my forms library. I'm going to click on the letter I'm wanting to generate. I'm going to click the matters button to choose my matter from my list. Then I'm going to click fill form. That is going to take the data from that matter record and it's going to merge it into the finished product. Okay, see how it says running word processor? And then it just takes that info and fills it into the appropriate areas. Okay, now you still got to do your due diligence here. Okay, there are going to be times when maybe someone didn't put certain information into the matter record, so the system doesn't have anything to put in that area of the form. Okay, so you still need to read over this and make sure that you're not missing anything out. You don't want to have a letter sent out to a client that just says dear, right? That looks weird, right? So make sure you're looking at it, you're just proofreading it to make sure it's good to go. But in theory, if you're entering the data into your matter record like you're supposed to be doing, then the form should fill accurately. And the same thing goes for your court forms and things like that, your PDFs, your WordPerfect docs, things like that. Okay. Now, once you have the form generated, if it's a Word doc, and actually if it's a PDF as well here pretty soon, I'll explain that in a second. But if it's a Word doc for right now, underneath your file menu, let me open up. I'm not going to save this one just for training purposes. Let me open up this other one. I want to show you this fun little feature. So here's our finished form, right? Maybe we come in here and we're going to, actually, mail this to a client or email it to a client, whatever we want. What you want to do when you save this, don't just click the save button, okay, and save it somewhere on your computer. You want to actually go into your file menu, and you're going to have a little option down here that says save and log. Let me see if I have one here. Yeah, here we go. So here's my finished product, right? Here's my finished form that I just generated, and I'm going to, email this to a client. When I click file, and instead of clicking save or save as, go down here to where it says add-ins and choose save and log to Abacus. Okay? What this is going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to choose an area on your network to save it to, okay, wherever you want. And I'll just save mine on my desktop for now, just for training purposes. I'll call this training doc. Okay, I'm going to click save on that. Okay, but it also allows me to choose a name and matter record to link the document to. Okay, now notice that it auto-filled that information in for me right here because it knows what matter I used to generate the form. Okay, so I can just stick with that, or if I need to change it for some reason, I can click one of these buttons and change it. But if I just click done here, now I've been thorough in my process. Not only have I saved that finished letter to my computer or my network to mail out to my client, but also if I go into the matter record, I'm going to have that lovely little document right here as well in my docs tab. Okay, so it's very important, to make sure you're doing that too, just to be thorough, because somebody might want to bill for this later on, or they may want to just reference it without having to go find it on the computer network. Okay, and they can do that by literally just going into this docs tab. Okay, so make sure you're utilizing that save and log feature inside of Microsoft Word to do that. Now, if you are up to date on your program, that feature should be installed in your Microsoft Word application. Okay, so if you don't have that feature, if you open up Word or generate a form with a Word doc and you don't see that save and log option inside of Word, you need to make sure you contact our support team and have them take care of that for you. For our PDF users, for people that have PDFs that they're generating, that is coming in the next update. Okay, so you will have that same save and log option inside of your PDF Adobe program as well. Okay, but it's not there yet. It's not on the current version. It's in the next release, which is coming out very soon. It's already been released to me, which usually means it's the very next release of the program, which is free for you. It's an update, okay? So you'll have that feature. In the meantime, if you don't have it, you got to just do it the old school way, where you're just coming to the Docs tab inside of the Matter and using the Add button to, either drag and drop the finished product or, manually add it to this tab. Okay, so that was generating a document from the library, okay? And as you know, that only generates a single document, right? What if we have to do many documents with just, a single document, but multiple times, right? Like that, request for information scenario that I was speaking to. The best way to do that is to go directly into the Matter. And I guess this is if it's, this is for multiple people involved in a single matter, okay? What you're gonna do is go into the Matter record. Let's do a different matter here. Let's stick with Doe v. Smith. Do we have Doe v. Smith? Oh, let's look again. Yeah, we'll do Doe v. Gates, okay? I'm gonna open up this Doe v. Gates matter. Go to your linked names tab, and under linked names, there is an option, a little button in the bottom that says Actions. And in this Actions menu, you have the ability to do a mail merge, okay? And essentially a mail merge, all that is just taking multiple people's information and merging it into different versions or different copies of a single form, okay? So when you click mail merge here, it's gonna basically ask you, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one step, I apologize. Once you get to this screen here, you need to select the people that you want to generate the form for. Okay, so click their names, using the little check boxes. And then once you have them selected, then click the Actions button, okay, and then go to Mail Merge, okay? Here it's gonna ask you, do you want just the highlighted record, or do you want to do the merge for all three records? Okay, so naturally you're probably going to say all three or all however many you selected. And then you just choose the form by clicking the form button here. Okay, and this will let you just navigate to the form. Okay, once that's done, everything else is the same. Okay, it basically just generates the same form, but with the information of the three different people. So I'd have three forms created, one for John Smith, one for Mark Jones, and one for Johnny Doe. Okay. Same rules apply if you are just going directly into your names database. Okay, if you're just sending out like a, welcome to the firm type letter to your, clients, then maybe you just go directly into the names database and run searches for each one of them, and then just start clicking off the names. Okay, I'm clicking these names here. As I have them clicked, I can then go to Actions, Mail Merge, and run through the same, choosing of my form and then generating the form. Okay. So like I was saying in the beginning, it all kind of depends on your scenario for that form generation. All right. So we've got some questions here. I'm going to go ahead and dive into those. Norm, I already took care of your first question, so I'll follow up with you on that. Let's see. Let's look at Garrett's question. Garrett, just had to do with the font size being bigger. Garrett, I'm assuming that your question had to do with me showing my screen. If you were referring to making the font size bigger in your forms, please let me know and I can address that for you. Let's see. We have a question here. If you create a category of a form, does it automatically add the category to the drop-down list? So what that person is referring to is back in our forms library, okay, when we right-click on a form and we go to Edit Properties, remember underneath Category, we have that drop-down menu, and this is how we can just classify our types of forms like family law, immigration, estate planning. When you click that, and you click the Add button to create a new category, whatever you enter in here, when you create that new category, it automatically adds that to the list, okay? So that way you're able to select that category to nest that form into. So the answer is yes, it does create the category in the drop-down list automatically for you when you create it. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so another question here. What do you mean by just this record versus all three records? So what that person was referring to, again, was when we are doing the same form, but three versions of it for different people. So let's go back into our Adobe Gates case and go to our linked names tab. If I need to generate the same deposition appointment letter and just send it to three different people, I'm going to choose those three people here. I'm going to click my Actions button and choose Mail Merge. And then right here where it says Data to Merge, it's going to give you an option. Do you want, if it's just this, the option that says this record is the one that you're highlighting. So like right now, it's just highlighting Billy Roberts. So if I selected this record, it would only generate one for Billy Roberts. But since I want it for all three records that I've selected, I'm choosing all three records. So that means it's going to generate a separate document for each people. And so hopefully that answers that question. So here's a good question. Can you create your own custom fields? The answer is yes. Abacus is very customizable, okay? First rule of thumb when customizing fields is, does the field already exist in the Abacus database, okay? Just because you don't see a field on the screen doesn't mean it doesn't exist, okay? This is a database program. So behind the scenes, you have a database table that has a list of all kinds of fields. What you see on your Matter screens and on your name screens, that is just what you've chosen to see on the screens, or what came with the program, right? But like, for instance, I don't see like client date of birth on here, but that doesn't mean that date of birth doesn't already exist in my database. So first thing you really have to do is look in your database structures to see if the field that you want in your form already exists, okay? And the best way to do that is by just going to File, Setup, Database Structures, okay? If you go into Database Structures, this is an administration function, by the way. So if you're not an administrator in the program, you're not going to be able to access this. So you need to ask your administrators to do it for you, okay? But once you get into this little database structures, you can look and see, like I can see right now in my names database, there is a field called DOB already. So the answer is yes. If that field already exists in my database structures, then yeah, I can add it to my form just by choosing it, from the list of available fields. Okay, but it's got to exist here first, right? If you are not familiar with how to add or edit your database structures to include new fields, let us know, okay? Email training@abacusnext.com. Let us know that you'd like, some more information on how to modify your database structures, and we can get you some information on how to do that, okay? But the answer is, to your question, Sanaz, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. The answer is yes, you can do that, and I will get you more information on that. Okay, let's see here. The same way we just created a Word document is the same way to create a PDF. So that's a question. Is it the same way doing Word generation as it is doing PDF? So yes, the steps are the same, but when you're editing a PDF, the editing window is a little bit different, as my friend Norm knows, because he works with PDFs quite often. He's also on our training session today. So if you look here, when I was doing this deposition appointment letter, because this was a Word doc, okay, it was opening it in Word. But if I go down here to my little federal section, I think I have a bankruptcy federal form in here. Yeah, this proof of claim is P10. If you look at this is actually a PDF, okay, so it looks a little bit different. So when you highlight this PDF form and you click Design, it's not going to open it in Adobe, okay? It opens, or in Word, it opens it in the PDF editor. So the concept behind what we're doing is the same, but the screen just looks a little bit different than in a Word. So you're still running through like a merge process. You can see here, here's my PDF, my Abacus Forms Designer. So you can see here I've got like debtor label 1, court case number, things like that. The adding fields is it's pretty intuitive. You've got a button up here that says add field, and things like that, check boxes and all that. So I would, if you're going to be doing, PDF generation, dive into this little window here and become familiar with this. And again, if you need, more information on that, email training@abacusnext.com and we'll take care of you. So like I was saying, the logic, the concept behind what we're doing is the same. The screens just look a little bit different. Okay, let's see. Great questions so far. Let's keep going. Can you scan and enter the scanned form into a matter for future reference? Absolutely, Teresa. And this is actually a feature that I show to people, and they usually didn't even know it existed, and it blows their mind. Especially in discovery, we get a lot of you'll get hard copies of stuff, unfortunately. Thanks, opposing counsel. So basically what you end up having to do is you got to scan them in, right? So, or a lot of times what will happen is, you have a scanner, and when you scan a document, maybe it emails it to you or something like that. So if you're scanning hard copies and you want them to be linked to your matter records, which you should do, by the way, you will notice that on every matter record, if you go to the Docs tab, there is a button down below that says Scan. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that. You can actually integrate your scanners to work with AbacusLaw. Whether you have like a desktop scanner that just sits, next to your computer screen in your office, or if you have like a big monster scanner like in the lobby or something, we can integrate that scanner. Usually, now every scanner is different, okay, so don't hold me to that, but most scanners are compatible. We can, our support team can set that up for you, okay? And basically what you're doing is once Abacus can talk to your scanner, much the same way Abacus talks to your printers, okay? All you have to do is take that document, throw it in your scanner, click this scan button, and mine throws an error because I don't have a scanner in my home office, okay? But you would get a scanner window right here that you basically just, click scan on, okay? And it runs through that scanning process and you're good to go. It links it right here under linked documents. That's a great little tool, especially for billing, for, reviewing. Now, you need to keep in mind, okay, and this is not an Abacus limitation, this is just a limitation with our legal industry, unfortunately, when it comes to scan items, okay? When you scan a hard copy, what are you creating? Everybody should know the answer to this. You're creating a PDF usually, and all a PDF is a glorified image, okay? So it is not going to be searchable unless your scanning software also OCRs, okay? So if opposing counsel just sent you a bunch of hard copies, and you got to scan them all in, and you need to search keywords and stuff like that, right, to look for, responsive information, you need to make sure that, your scanner is set to OCR, okay? If it's OCRing, essentially what happens is the text file gets assigned to that, PDF, that scanned PDF, and then when you run a search, it basically searches the text file, okay? So, maybe one day we'll get away from that, but until then, everybody's kind of at the limitation of OCRing. OCRing at best is usually only 85% accurate, so it's always better to get the native files. But obviously, with the importance of privileged information, there's just not a better way to do it at this point in time. So the short answer, Teresa, sure, you can scan in. If you don't have that feature already set up, contact our support team, and they will take care of that for you. Okay, let's see here. How can I ensure all fields in a PDF are in the same font and font size? Well, it should be based off of the PDF itself. So it should be going off of the default PDF fonts for the actual original PDF. So, and I see that question is from Norm, and Norm, I already have a follow-up in with you, so I will add that to my my list, and I will follow up with you before close of business tomorrow, and we'll take a look and we'll discuss that. Okay, any other questions out there? I'll give it another minute here just to rack our brains and see if there's anything else we want to throw out there. And if you, like I said, if you think of something after we disconnect, just shoot us an email, training@abacusnext.com. just write in your email, just say, hey, I was on the, form generation webinar, and I thought of something else to ask, and give us your question, and we'll get that squared away. All right, I don't see anything coming through. To schedule future webinars, make sure you go over to abacusnext.com/webinars and take a look at our upcoming schedule. And like I said before, we'll be putting this recording on there as well. So that'll be there for your review. And also, any ideas, any topic ideas that you guys have, send us an email. Email webinars@abacusnext.com if you have any, ideas on upcoming topics. We love doing webinars on what you guys request. So please, email us and let us know. We'd love to do that. Let's see, a couple questions came in here last minute. So let's get those addressed. Let's see, Garrett, it looks like your Microsoft Word is the new version. Do you support 2010? We absolutely do. You need to just keep in mind the way software works, especially if, we're talking about third-party integrations, is, if Microsoft stops supporting 2010, basically that means it's end of life for us too. So right now, I think Microsoft still supports 2010. So, the integration features should still work. If you run into any issues, if you run into any errors, let us know and we can troubleshoot that for you. But there's always a potential of, having to upgrade to a latest version. And unfortunately, that's just a fact of life with technology and with software. So as of right now, Garrett, yes, I do believe that 2010 is supported. Let's see, last minute question here from Jeff. How do I delete some of the folders that are on the screen? So I guess that's going to depend on which screen you're referring to. If you are talking about inside of a matter record, the Documents tab, you've got these folders in here. I believe there is a right-click menu, and you can actually just delete the folders there, okay, and that will remove them from the folder structure. If you're referring to the Forms library, I believe it's a similar, let's see here. If we right-click on that, we are able to not delete it, it looks like. Okay, so probably what you're going to need to do then, Jeff, if you're trying to remove these folders, is remove them from the actual category list. Okay, so click on one of the forms, go to Edit Properties, and then when you have this category drop down here, delete it here. Okay, if you delete it from this list, it will not show over here. Now, if you have forms inside of those, little nested categories, you may want to, reassign those to other areas, or else they're just going to go in the general, kind of area there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Again, if any other questions come into play, email training@abacusnext.com and we'll get you squared away. If I did not get to your question today, don't be alarmed. I will follow up with you by email before end of business Friday. Thanks, everyone, for attending. Don't forget to check out the schedule on our website for our upcoming webinars, and I look forward to seeing all of you on a future session. Thanks, and have a great day.